Good afternoon. I am representative of the gold sponsor, so we have this sort of mid-afternoon session on the second day of the conference, and it's already beginning to thin out. And I'm not quite sure what sponsors do or say when they face this sort of audience. If it's last night, we could just simply buy you your drink and your meal, but that wouldn't be appropriate this afternoon. A default would be to sort of point you in the direction of the UPP stand outside the exhibition area, so I can wave this around. There's also a corporate brochure. And these are all the things you'd expect me to do. But actually, what I want to do, with your consent, Chris, is to spend maybe 15 minutes talking a little bit about what we do, but actually how it interacts and affects what you do. So with that in mind, let me do precisely that. So my name is Shamit Saggar, as I've been introduced, Chairman of UPP Group Holdings Limited, and also Professor at the University of Essex. For those of you who may not be familiar, UPP is currently works in long-term partnership with 14 UK universities and across different mission groups. UPP specifically is a private company, has co-owned shareholders that are Dutch and Chinese, and specifically it has an ambition to double its core business in the course of the next 4 years. There are many VCs in this room and indeed outside this room at this conference who we already partner with. Yesterday, I think, I heard the President in his presidential address, and indeed the Minister of State, talk in very upbeat terms about the future of the sector. In fact, there was talk of a 10-year plan. This plan was positive, it was encouraging, it was exciting. Frankly, I would like to be part of that if I was the Vice-Chancellor. But more than anything else, it made me think that these universities who want to be part of that great growth industry for this country will have to have excellent infrastructure and facilities. Some already do, and many are developing these things for the future. And that in turn requires sound management and strong commercial awareness, and that's, I think, where we come in. So naturally, I'm delighted to be able to address the UK conference at this time when the impact of changes to funding continue to emerge, and a time when institutions find themselves in an ever more volatile but also competitive and exciting marketplace. In other words, it's a key moment of opportunity for universities to take control and redefine their future. Institutions, it seems to me, are faced with decisions on 4 different fronts. All of them are quite difficult. These decisions are regarding what services they should provide, addressing that thorny question of what counts as core, non-core, and frankly, the interrelationship between the two. Difficult decisions about how they deliver these services, be it in-house or with a partner. Decisions regarding how they respond strategically to student preferences, and in doing so, reinventing, where necessary, the student experience, and if I may say so, right down to what it is that a university does and what it looks like. And finally, and crucially, difficult decisions about who's going to fund all of this, where's the money going to come from, and what does it mean if we do get into commercial relationships. So by exploiting existing income streams and or generating new income streams and or by accessing the most cost-effective borrowing available, there are opportunities. So, given the theme of this year's conference, strength and diversity, I would like to sketch out some of the areas in which I think UK universities will be able to operate more efficiently and effectively, precisely by diversifying how they fund and deliver their own services. Firstly, a very brief word about change in the sector itself. There are some big drivers taking place, delivering that change, as you know, and some very big consequences and outcomes as a result. For instance, as students increasingly change their consumption behaviour, reassess their attitude to risk, or rather debt, change how and when they study and the means by which that is delivered, these institutions will have to seek to change their strategies in response. Improving the student experience will be a major challenge. It should not be underestimated. I'm sure you don't need me to tell you that. But it will involve revisiting and potentially re-engineering institutional strategy, governance, research outputs, reputation management, pedagogy, and facilities. And personally, before long, I would also expect to see some institutions providing their own loan books to attract and support students, and in doing so, fundamentally re-engineering the incentive structure between universities on the one hand and the users of their services, the students, on the other. and it's academic facilities that underpin the delivery of these core services. I think, as we all know, but if I can just quickly recap, at present there is a significant amount of the UK HE estate that is either in need of complete refurbishment or replacement. Think of the following numbers: between 20 and 25% in proportional terms, or 7.3 million square metres in actual space terms, all of which will have to be refurbished or redeveloped at some point in the very near future. And of course, this is an historic problem. It pre-exists the recent rapid expansion of student numbers. It's composed of existing backlog maintenance requirement of around £5 billion. A recent report from Big R Economics may be familiar to you, and that identifies an investment agenda of around about £9 billion on capital projects over the next 5 years amongst Russell Group universities alone. So that all makes me personally think of the very big management challenges that lie ahead. For successful universities will not only have to make wise strategic partnerships to deliver on this front, they will also have to manage significant issues in modernising their teaching offer, in meeting the expectations of graduate employers, in harnessing new technology, and in making themselves relevant to the needs of a knowledge-led national and international economy. Put simply, running fast to stand still will become the new norm. Let me just share one practical and timely example with you to illustrate this. And that is the example of our most recent partnership with the University of London that was negotiated and approved this last July. The University of London are working with UPP to redevelop and refurbish 3 residences on its Bloomsbury campus in central London. And these will, within a year it seems, provide 1,200 study bedrooms, as well as a range of conference, catering and social facilities. The new investment will cost around about £140 million and will enable the university to market state-of-the-art facilities to prospective students, both domestic and international. And it will, helpfully, ring-fence ongoing operational and maintenance risks. Strikingly, it offers the potential of performance-related returns to both the university and to UPP through a company shareholding arrangement. In essence, this is a proud and timely example of current income streams being strengthened and new income streams being created through partnership. In the case of London, such initiatives are by no means unique. The university is already offering careers, housing and IT services to other universities outside of its own federation. So the University of London, as with many of our partners, know that they are in a changing market and understand the growing pressure to think entrepreneurially and to act swiftly. Much of this makes me think that there'll be a lot of partnership involved, and particularly partnership with the commercial sector, where there's scant experience of this in the past. In my view, a good partnership between HE and specialist commercial providers depends on developing a robust, long-term business model. As a company, we ourselves, UPP, are focused and will remain focused on partnering with those universities that are best able to navigate the new, more competitive HE economy that is developing. The HE economy will be made up of a spectrum, of course. At one end, universities that adopt sophisticated business plans that measure, develop, sustain demand in the medium to long term, and at the other end of that spectrum, universities that are noticeably less effective in meeting this management challenge. For instance, the growth in HE places itself that we've become accustomed to may not continue endlessly. In my judgment, it will ebb and flow from institution to institution, from region to region, from program to program, and from academic year to academic year. Demand for places, it seems, will also be affected by public attitudes. You may be interested to learn that the most recent findings from the British Social Attitudes Survey reveal that middle-class respondents were twice as likely to report that they support significant reduction in student places than folk from economically disadvantaged households. And graduates themselves are also twice as likely as non-graduates to want to see a smaller HE sector in the future. It looks a lot like pulling up the ladder. I cannot say how that dynamic will play out, but it's clear to me that medium and long-term demand is now an integral part of a successful university. And that core quality is something that investors will seek in making their investment decisions. Let me just briefly now turn to the main purpose of my address this afternoon and the message I'd like to leave you with, namely around the access to investment and the successful navigation of modern capital markets. All of the things I've been describing and the vision that's been set out by UK will require access to investment that is cost-effective, reliable, long-term, and crucially aligns the interests of universities with their commercial partners. Universities are, of course, nominally in an enviable position in terms of their capacity to attract investment. Whilst traditional bank funding is still available, it is still relatively expensive and available on short-term debt tenors. Yet universities are, or at least should be, a sector that institutional investors find attractive because of the stable and predictable long-term returns. Opportunities to work with universities are now actively sought after by investors in the global capital markets. And in the past couple of years, frankly, it's no secret that university infrastructure has become an attractive asset class in its own amongst both our own investors at UPP, but also others in the market. This can only help, in my view, in terms of influencing market attitudes to future investment propositions. Universities are generally viewed as having a stable risk profile, and as a result, typically an investment-grade standalone credit profile. Universities specifically, such as Nottingham, Sheffield, King's London, and Lancaster have underlined this by achieving credit ratings in the range of A to AAA stable. Also, post-92 universities are just as able to achieve investment-grade ratings in excess of BBB+. The risk profile and longevity of university business models allows for truly cost-effective borrowing, which may be used for a variety of purposes, typically infrastructure, transactions, but as we've seen also student-led experience initiatives such as the £110 million bond undertaken by De Montfort, and potentially even student loan facilities. The impact of this should not be underestimated. UPP's first bond undertaken last year was based upon a partnership approach, and this typically halved the traditional cost of borrowing relative to structured finance solutions and placed debt on a tenor of between 35 and 40 years. This is a huge progressive development in access to finance, in my judgment. And in recent years, even sovereign wealth funds, typically based in the Middle East, have also shown interest in large-scale provision of university facilities. However, these tend to be big campus redevelopment transactions with borrowing risks and tickets in the billions rather than the millions. And in the background, we have seen a number of investment projects that have gotten going around the future shape of their local and regional economies. The most prominent of these is the University of Cambridge's involvement in the Northwest Cambridge Redevelopment Initiative. The university has the capacity to borrow at 60 basis points above gilts on a AAA rating, allowing it to become integral to the development of the city. This scheme, in due course, will provide 1,500 private homes, up to 1,500 homes for university staff, accommodation for 2,000 postgraduates, 100,000 square meters of academic and research space, and a whole host of community and commercial facilities beyond that. And universities overseas have been doing this for a long while, but the crucial point is to place the university at the heart of a knowledge-centered economic strategy. In many ways, I think of the model forwarded and favored by Richard Florida in The Rise of the Creative Class. So to conclude, echoing the President's comments and viewpoint from yesterday, at UPP we believe that universities in this country are a critical engine of innovation and growth. The sector faces a period of change, but also unprecedented opportunity. To move forward, in my judgment, institutions will need to meet three interrelated challenges at one and the same time. First, they will need to be bold in asserting their strategies strategies tied to expressing and developing their uniqueness in each case and playing to existing strengths as they see them. Second, they will need to be bold and far-sighted in the decisions that they make as to what constitutes core and non-core provision. This fundamental distinction will enable academic leaders to concentrate upon the academy. And finally, they need to be open to establishing partnerships with other institutions and specialist providers. Such partnerships can help them ring-fence the future risks they face, deliver the services that they will need more effectively, generate new and more valuable income streams, but above all, that openness will allow them to free themselves to deliver the world-class academic excellence that they're committed to. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the UUK conference.